Welcome back to the Deep Dive, brought to you by the Before AGI podcast. Today we're diving into, well, a pretty complex shift happening in the creative world. AI has really moved far beyond just, generating simple images or text snippets.
That's right. It's not just a tool anymore, not passive. It's becoming an active, almost intelligent participant in the creative process.
Exactly. The conversation used to be about novelty, like, look what this AI can make. But now we need to understand how it's actually, changing the workflow. It's more than just a prompt engine.
It really is. We have to start seeing it as this integrated partner. It's a fundamental shift.
So that's our mission today. We've gone through the sources to distill what they're revealing about this new paradigm. We've identified 3 key strategic roles AI seems to be taking on right now. First, AI as the evaluator. Think of it as the algorithmic critic.
Okay.
Second, AI as a collaborator, the creative partner.
For partner.
And third, maybe the most fascinating one, AI as a student of beauty trying to model aesthetics itself.
And this is moving us beyond simple automation, replacing tasks. We're really talking about augmentation. Now, technology enhancing what humans can do, pushing creativity into new areas.
Okay, let's unpack that first one. AI as the algorithmic critic. This is where AI acts like a judge, right? Standardizing quality control, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. A good example, maybe the most accessible one, is Google's NIMA.
NIMA, Neural Image Assessment.
That's the one. It's fascinating, really. It kind of proves that statistical pattern matching can, well, effectively replicate aspects of human taste. They trained it on thousands and thousands of photos that humans had already rated. So the model learned the sort of mathematical signatures of good composition, color, harmony, technical quality, things like that.
So NIMA sees a new picture and gives it a score, say 1 to 10.
Yep.
And that score actually lines up pretty well with what an average group of humans would rate it.
Remarkably well, actually. It's internalized those human aesthetic preferences, statistically speaking.
Okay, so that's for assessing existing images. But how does this kind of evaluation work in the generative art space when AI is making the art?
Right. That's where the technical evaluation frameworks become really important strategically. For generative AI, we use different metrics. One big one is the Freshen Inception Distance, or FID.
FID.
It's kind of the industry gold standard. But it doesn't measure subjective beauty, not directly. What it measures is the statistical similarity between the AI-generated images and a set of real-world, high-quality images. How indistinguishable are they?
Okay. So progress isn't judged by is it beautiful, but by how close is it to real, statistically?
Precisely. It's a more objective way to track how good the generative models are getting at realism. That's a big shift.
Interesting. Are there other metrics?
Yeah, there's also the Inception score, IS, that looks at both the quality and the diversity of the images the AI generates. You want good images, but you also want variety. Yeah. It gets even more sophisticated. AI can use natural language processing, NLP.
To read reviews and stuff.
Exactly. To analyze human reactions. It tracks public reception, identifies aesthetic trends by parsing the language in art criticism, social media posts, you name it.
Wow, that sounds incredibly thorough. If AI can score composition like NIMA and analyze what critics say, where's the weak spot? There must be a catch, right?
There is. And it's a really crucial finding that kept coming up in the sources, this thing called AI bias.
AI bias, what does that mean here?
It means studies consistently find that if you show people 2 identical artworks,
okay,
but you tell them one was made by a human and the other by AI,
they rate the human one higher.
Significantly higher, consistently.
Whoa. So the exact same image gets valued differently just based on who or what we think made it?
It tells us something really important, doesn't it? That the human context, the story, the intention, maybe the perceived struggle behind the work, it's integral to how we judge art aesthetically. And that's something algorithms, well, they just can't replicate easily. So the sources suggest that using AI just as a judge, purely for evaluation, it kind of hits a dead end because it misses that whole layer of human meaning and intentionality.
Which naturally pivots us towards the second role then. If evaluation alone is incomplete,
Collaboration becomes key.
Right. AI as the creative partner, moving from judging to assisting, from automation to augmentation. And the research here shows some pretty concrete benefits, doesn't it, in terms of ROI?
Oh, definitely. The data is quite compelling. Some studies point to AI-assisted creative processes leading to about a 25% increase in overall creative productivity.
25%, that's substantial.
It is. But what really stood out to me was the impact on quality, judged by peers. a 50% improvement in peer evaluation scores.
50%, half again better scores when humans work with AI.
Yeah. It suggests that the synergy, human exploration combined with AI's computational power, it's actually unlocking genuinely better or maybe more novel creative outcomes.
Okay, give us some real-world examples of this co-creation.
Sure. In music, think about Google's N-Synth Super.
N-Synth.
It lets musicians blend the sounds of completely different instruments, like the attack of a flute with the decay of a guitar, creating entirely new sounds, new timbres. The AI acts as this exploratory partner in sound design.
Cool. What about visual arts?
There's the AI Can project. This AI was trained on, well, vast amounts of art history, centuries of it, and then it generated original paintings. And these weren't just technically proficient, they were compelling enough to be exhibited in galleries. It showed AI's potential to actually co-create cultural innovation.
Wow. So music, visual art, what else?
It really spans across mediums. In writing, you have tools like GPT-4 or Pseudowrite. They can act as brainstorming partners.
Like suggesting plot twists or descriptions.
Exactly. Helping writers break through blocks, suggesting vivid language that the human writer then curates and refines. Even in performance, there's the Echo Fluid system, which helps choreographers develop AI models for exploring dance movements, for learning and creation.
So across all these different fields, what's the key element for making these partnerships work well? What did the research say?
The consistent theme is human agency. It has to be maintained. Artists report feeling much more satisfied, more in control, when the AI tools are transparent, when they allow for human adjustment and fine-tuning.
So the human needs to stay in the driver's seat.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The AI might propose options, generate possibilities at scale, but the human needs to be the ultimate curator, the decision maker. That seems crucial for a successful partnership.
That makes sense. And it leads us nicely into that third role, which feels like the most philosophical one. AI is the student of beauty. Here's where it gets really interesting, I think. Can a machine actually understand beauty? Or is it just getting incredibly good at mimicking it?
Well, it certainly masters the patterns associated with aesthetics, no doubt about that. It learns through data like NIMA's training set that certain things, high contrast, symmetry, the colors in a sunset, these things statistically correlate highly with positive human ratings.
So it gets really good at mimicking style and form because it identifies those correlations.
Exactly. It learns the what people tend to like statistically.
But the gap is still the why, isn't it? How are researchers trying to bridge that gap? Trying to get AI to understand why we like what we like?
They're trying to bring in more context, essentially, biological and cultural. We're seeing the rise of computational neuroaesthetics.
Computational neuroaesthetics. Okay, break that down.
It bridges neuroscience and AI, basically using machine learning to analyze brain activity, fMRI scans, EEG data, while people are having aesthetic experiences, looking at art, listening to music.
So using the machine to figure out how our brains actually process and value beauty.
Precisely. And these systems are getting quite good. Some research suggests they can predict an individual's specific aesthetic preferences with up to like 80% accuracy just based on their brain activity.
Percent.
And alongside that, there are efforts in cultural context modeling, developing AI that understands that taste isn't universal. It changes across cultures, across history, moving beyond just generalized rules of beauty.
Okay, so even with all this incredibly sophisticated statistical modeling, brain scanning analysis, cultural modeling, there's still this gap, right? The intentionality gap you mentioned.
Yes, that remains the central issue, especially when you talk to human creators. It's the difference between very, very good emulation and genuine understanding or feeling. One neuroscientist quoted, and the sources put it really well. They said, AI can produce art that's aesthetically pleasing at the sensory level, hitting all the right notes visually or orally, but it struggles to replicate the deeper communicative aspects of art, the parts that are enriched by human experience, by lived life.
And the artists themselves seem to echo this.
Very much so.
Yeah.
We saw quotes highlighting this distinction, like the jazz musician Yosfani Terry. He said, music transmits emotion, tells stories, and AI, he felt, cannot do either of those things yet, because it lacks curiosity, it lacks that grounding and lived experience.
Right, form versus feeling.
And the architect Moshe Safdie made a similar point. He acknowledged AI could achieve technical perfection, but felt true art has a spiritual, emotional dimension that he just doesn't see machines achieving. The machine learns the grammar of beauty, you could say, but not the poetry. The poetry comes from consciousness.
And this gap, this difference between the technical skill and that human spark, That's what's fueling a lot of the current debates, the ethical and legal issues?
Absolutely. It creates some really complex challenges, questions around authorship and intellectual property, for instance.
Hmm.
If a human and an AI truly co-create something amazing, who owns it? How do you even assign credit?
That's a huge question.
And it's moving beyond just theoretical debates now.
How so? What's happening on the ground?
Well, the sources point out that artists have actually started suing major AI companies
Suing them? Over what?
over claims that the AI models have essentially ingested their entire body of work and are now emulating their unique, recognizable styles too closely.
Ah, the infringement versus inspiration debate.
Exactly. It's a huge legal battleground right now. Is the AI learning from the artist's style, or is it effectively copying it in a way that undermines the original artist's livelihood? These lawsuits are really defining the legal landscape as we speak.
Okay. So, pulling it all together then, we've looked at AI as the evaluator, like NIMA and FID, as the collaborator with tools like N-Synth and AUCOM boosting creativity, and as this technical student of beauty, learning patterns but missing intent. What's the strategic takeaway for someone listening to this?
I think the consensus emerging from the source is pretty clear. AI is shaping up to be an incredibly powerful tool that complements and enhances human creativity, rather than simply replacing it.
So the future isn't AI or humans, it's AI and humans.
Exactly. The future lies in figuring out this evolving human-machine collaboration, making it seamless, effective, ethical, especially as these tools start integrating more with things like extended reality, XR platforms. It's fundamentally reshaping creative workflows and even how we think about authorship.
All right, so let's leave our listeners with something to think about, that final provocative thought.
Okay, so building on that distinction between technical mimicry and human feeling, here's the question. If AI can eventually create works of, let's say, extraordinary beauty, things that score off the charts on technical and aesthetic metrics, things that are objectively pleasing, but it does so without ever having lived or felt emotion or had a subjective experience,
Uh-huh.
does that challenge our very definition of what art is?
Hmm.
Or maybe, does the machine's beautiful but ultimately intentionless creation simply throw into sharper relief the indispensable value of that messy, emotional, conscious human element we instinctively look for in art?
Hmm. Does perfect emotionless beauty highlight why we need the imperfect emotional human touch?
Something to mull over.
Definitely something to think about. That is a deep dive for another time. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of AI's strategic roles in the creative industries today. We really encourage you to subscribe to the Before AGI podcast for more deep dives like this one. And if you're interested in the more technical side, tutorials, practical insights into AI tools, please do check out the YouTube channel, Ian Ochieng AI. That's Ian, Ochieng AI. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.